The Arab Spring was a period of intense upheaval that swept across the Middle East and North Africa. Beginning in late 2010, this wave of popular uprisings challenged long-standing authoritarian regimes. It ignited a yearning for democracy, human rights and social justice. Millions of people took to the streets demanding change. The Arab Spring was a watershed moment in the region's history. It demonstrated the power of collective action. It showed the world that even in the face of repression, hope for a better future could ignite a revolution. The Arab Spring had a profound impact, toppling dictators and reshaping the political landscape. However, the path to change proved tumultuous. The Arab Spring was marked by both triumph and tragedy. While some countries witnessed peaceful transitions of power, others spiraled into chaos and conflict. The legacy of the Arab Spring remains complex and multifaceted. This presentation will delve into the key events of the Arab Spring, exploring its causes, consequences, and lasting impact. We will examine the uprisings in Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, Yemen, Bahrain, and Syria. We will also analyze the role of foreign powers and the challenges that continue to shape the region today. The Arab Spring was ignited in Tunisia, a small North African nation often overlooked on the world stage. On December 17, 2010, Mohamed Bouazizi, a Tunisian street vendor, set himself on fire. His desperate act was a protest against police harassment and economic despair. This tragic event resonated deeply with Tunisians who had long endured corruption and lack of opportunity. Bouazizi's self-immolation became a potent symbol of resistance. It sparked nationwide protests against the authoritarian rule of President Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. The Tunisian people, armed with nothing more than their voices and determination, demanded change. The protests, dubbed the Jasmine Revolution, gained momentum rapidly. Ben Ali, in power for over 2 decades, underestimated the people's resolve. Faced with mounting pressure, he fled to Saudi Arabia on January 14, 2011. Tunisia's Jasmine Revolution sent shockwaves across the Arab world. It demonstrated that even the most entrenched dictatorships were vulnerable to popular uprisings. Tunisia's success inspired similar movements in neighboring countries, igniting the Arab Spring. Inspired by Tunisia's revolution, Egyptians took to the streets on January 25, 2011. For 18 days, Cairo's Tahrir Square became the epicenter of a massive protest movement. Millions of Egyptians from all walks of life demanded the ouster of President Hosni Mubarak. Mubarak, who had ruled Egypt with an iron fist for 30 years, responded with force. However, the protesters remained resolute. They braved tear gas, rubber bullets, and even live ammunition. The world watched in awe as ordinary Egyptians stood up to one of the region's most powerful militaries. On February 11, 2011, Mubarak finally succumbed to the pressure. He resigned and handed over power to the military. The fall of Mubarak, a stalwart US ally, sent shockwaves through the region and the world. Egypt's revolution was a testament to the power of the people. It showed that even in a country with a history of authoritarian rule, the yearning for freedom and democracy could not be silenced. However, Egypt's transition to democracy proved to be a rocky road. In February 2011, protests erupted in Libya, challenging the 4-decade rule of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi, known for his eccentric personality and brutal repression, responded with characteristic ruthlessness. He vowed to crush the uprising, unleashing his security forces on unarmed civilians. The Libyan uprising quickly descended into a full-blown civil war. The international community, alarmed by the escalating violence and Gaddafi's threats of a massacre, intervened. NATO launched airstrikes against Gaddafi's forces, enforcing a no-fly zone over Libya. After months of fighting, rebel forces aided by NATO airstrikes captured Tripoli, Libya's capital, in August 2011. Gaddafi was captured and killed in October 2011, ending his reign of terror. Libya's revolution was hailed as a victory for democracy and human rights. However, the country was left deeply divided and awash in weapons. The overthrow of Gaddafi created a power vacuum, leading to years of instability and conflict. In January 2011, protests erupted in Yemen, demanding the ouster of President Ali Abdullah Saleh. Saleh, who had ruled Yemen for over 3 decades, faced growing discontent over corruption, poverty, and unemployment. The protests in Yemen were met with a brutal crackdown by Saleh's security forces. The country descended into chaos as different factions, including the military, tribal groups, and Islamist militants battled for control. In November 2011, Saleh agreed to step down as part of a deal brokered by the Gulf Cooperation Council. He handed over power to his deputy, Abdrabbu Mansur Hadi. However, the agreement failed to bring stability to Yemen. In 2014, Houthi rebels, a Shia Muslim group, seized control of the capital, Sana'a, forcing Hadi to flee. The Houthis' advance triggered a Saudi-led military intervention, plunging Yemen into a devastating civil war. In February 2011, inspired by the uprisings in Tunisia and Egypt, protests erupted in Bahrain, a small island nation in the Persian Gulf. The protests, led by the country's Shia Muslim majority, demanded greater political rights and an end to discrimination by the Sunni Muslim monarchy. The Bahraini government responded swiftly and ruthlessly. With the support of Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states, security forces cracked down on the protests, killing dozens of demonstrators. The government imposed a state of emergency, banning protests and censoring the media. The Bahraini uprising was brutally suppressed and the monarchy remained in power. However, the underlying grievances that fueled the protests remained unaddressed. Bahrain continues to face political repression and sectarian tensions. In March 2011, protests erupted in Syria, demanding political reforms and an end to the 4-decade rule of President Bashar al-Assad. Assad, like his father before him, ruled Syria with an iron fist, crushing dissent and suppressing any challenge to his authority. The Syrian government responded to the protests with brutal force. Security forces opened fire on unarmed demonstrators, killing hundreds. The country descended into a civil war that would drag on for years, becoming one of the deadliest conflicts of the 21st century. The Syrian civil war drew in foreign powers, transforming the conflict into a complex proxy war. Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah provided crucial support to Assad, while the United States, Turkey, and Gulf states backed various rebel groups. The Syrian civil war has had a devastating impact on the country and the region. Millions of Syrians have been displaced, seeking refuge in neighboring countries and beyond. The conflict has also fueled the rise of extremist groups, such as ISIS. The Arab Spring was not simply a series of spontaneous uprisings. Foreign powers played a significant role in shaping the course of events, often driven by their own strategic interests and regional ambitions. Russia, eager to reassert its influence in the Middle East, provided crucial military support to the Assad regime in Syria. Russian airstrikes helped turn the tide of the war in Assad's favor, ensuring his survival but also contributing to the immense suffering of the Syrian people. The United States and its Western allies, while initially supportive of the pro-democracy movements, adopted a more cautious approach as the Arab Spring unfolded. In Libya, NATO's intervention helped topple Gaddafi, but also contributed to the country's subsequent instability. Gulf states, particularly Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, played a complex and often destabilizing role in the Arab Spring. They supported the Bahraini monarchy's crackdown on protesters and intervened militarily in Yemen, exacerbating the conflict. The involvement of foreign powers in the Arab Spring highlights the complex geopolitical dynamics at play in the region. It also underscores the challenges of promoting democracy and human rights in a context of competing interests and regional rivalries. The Arab Spring was a watershed moment in the history of the Middle East and North Africa. It demonstrated the yearning for freedom and democracy that burned brightly in the hearts of millions. The uprisings toppled dictators, challenged the status quo, and inspired hope for a better future. However, the path to change proved treacherous and uncertain. The Arab Spring's legacy is a complex mix of hope and unfulfilled promises. While Tunisia successfully transitioned to democracy, other countries such as Libya, Syria, and Yemen spiraled into chaos and conflict. The Arab Spring also highlighted the challenges of building democratic institutions and fostering a culture of tolerance and pluralism. The rise of extremist groups such as ISIS in the aftermath of the uprisings underscored the fragility of peace and the need for inclusive governance. Despite the setbacks and ongoing challenges, the Arab Spring's legacy of hope endures. The desire for freedom, dignity, and social justice that ignited the uprisings remains a powerful force for change. The Arab Spring serves as a reminder that even in the face of repression and adversity, the human spirit's yearning for a better world cannot be extinguished. Please subscribe to our channel for more insightful documentaries.